It's about that time again. JuJutsu Kaisen Chapter 228 is freaking amazing. Disclaimer: Real Ninja Reviews do not own the rights to JuJutsu Kaisen. This video is for entertainment purposes only. All the rights go to the original owner. Okay, how this chapter begins is where we left off with Satoru Gojo's small burial that he performed back in chapter 227. By Gojo creating a small barrier, the domain is more stable, which Kusakabe believes should be impossible. Mei calls out Kusakabe for saying it's impossible for the 5th time today. Maki asks, why is this impossible? Because domains' outward inward appearance never match. The inward appearance is always bigger than the outward appearance of a domain extension. But Kusakabe explains that when you're trapped in a domain expansion, you can't see the edge of the domain. It's like how Maki was in chapter 108 when she was trapped in Dagon's domain expansion. Even if you found the edge by some miracle, it will be almost impossible to break from the inside because the inside of the domain is reinforced. That's why outside attacks are so effective. Also, Satoru Gojo making the barrier small is a gamble on his part because trapping yourself and your opponent in a too small barrier would normally just collapse. Think of it like this: a hippopotamus sitting on a round table. The weight and mass of the hippo will cause it to instantly collapse. But Choso comes to the realization that Gojo is pulling this feat off because of his time in the prison realm. He's literally using his experience in the prison realm to conform this into battle. Man, this is why I tell y'all Satoru Gojo is freaking sweet. Kusakabe still has a hard time getting over the fact that Satoru and Sukuna keeps changing conditions of their domain, because a domain have a set of internal and external parameters. By discovering their own blend of these parameters, every sorcerer is able to establish their own domain. Domain expansions are normally tough to perform for any sorcerer, but Gojo and Sukuna make it look easy because what these two are doing is virtually impossible. Even the creator tells them that the battle between the strongest apostle and rationale and logic is thrown out the window. Also, Higuruma and Hikari's domain are the exception because their domain work backwards because they use their curse technique to construct the domain itself and not the barrier. The barrier begins to tremble. Mei points out that it's holding out, but Yuta, who always puts in the logic into all these battles, points out that Sukuna decreased his domain range to increase the output. Angel point out that if Satoru loses another domain battle, that this may be the end for our hero, because Satoru has already lost 2 other times in a domain expansion battle. The domain collapsed to everyone's shock, even Gojo. It just breaks apart, and Gojo himself looks shocked that Sukuna destroyed his domain for the 3rd time. Yuji looks worried for his sensei because of the fact that he's been losing domain expansions battles. But to everyone's surprise, Malevolent Shrine was destroyed at the same time as Infinite Void because Gojo gave Sukuna enough damage that he could no longer sustain his shrine, which got everybody cheering. Kusakabe asked, how long did Gojo maintain his domain? Well, Mei points out that Gojo had his domain up for 3 minutes, and now that they use their domain expansions, neither one of them can use their curse techniques. But we know that Satoru can use reverse curse technique to heal his burnt out curse technique, something that Maki points out. But Angel ends up counter arguing that by saying that Gojo made a really bad mistake by showing Sukuna that you can use reverse curse technique to heal your burnt out curse technique, because now Sukuna himself can do it after only seeing it one time. And the interesting thing about this is that we learn that Kenjaku was the one who helped Sukuna split his souls into 20 different fingers, which in turn made Sukuna become a curse object. So this makes sense, seeing as Kenjaku knew where all of Sukuna's finger and even where his body was. So Kenjaku knew all of that. One of the main reasonings he needed Satoru Gojo to go away is so he could get that last finger. But as we all know, he knew that Satoru Gojo kind of hid that last finger, which is crazy. And like I said, our boy Yuta always bring logic to these fights. It's saying, that doing reverse curse technique, healing your burnt out curse technique should be impossible because even he can't do it. So they go back, Satoru Gojo and Sukuna goes back to hand-to-hand combat. While they're in hand-to-hand combat, Satoru wonders why Gojo is not using the 10 Shadows curse technique. He's been wondering this because the whole entire fight, Satoru Gojo has been leading this fight for 3 whole minutes of this fight. Yet, Sukuna has been taking riskier options. So when Satoru switched the parameters of his domain, Sukuna chose to take the riskier option instead of using his trump card, which is Maharaga. Maharaga is the strongest Shikigami in Megami's arsenal of the 10 Shadow Curse technique. He didn't try to use them, and Satoru's wondering, is it because he's scared that he will one-shot Maharaga? He also is aware that Sukuna has Megami's memories, so he knows that Sukuna knows the conversation him and Megami had back in chapter 117, where Gojo told Megami that the head of the Gojo family and the head of the Zenin family killed each other, where one had the 6 eyes and limitless like himself, the other the 10 Shadows curse technique, but he's not using them. But we all know that Sukuna, a 1,000-year-old ancient sorcerer like Kenjaku, always have tricks up his sleeves. And with Megami's memories, it looks like he hid Magaraga's wheel in his shadow, which in turn, you see it click. And when that wheel click, that means he is immune to Satoru Gojo's attacks, whether it's curse technique reversal red, domain expansion, he is immune to those 2 things. But another shocking thing is that Gojo nose start to bleed and he's becoming dizzy. And that's because he has spammed domain expansion more than once. He spammed it 3 times. And we know in normal circumstances, if he's using his regular curse techniques, he wouldn't run out of energy like that. But he can run out of energy if he spams domain expansions. Look, I cannot stress this enough that this writing is amazing. Amazing writing. Gege Akutami is doing their thing. This is how you write anime and shonen in general. This is oh my god. I can't express how great this is. And I love JuJutsu Kaisen. But if you guys want more JuJutsu Kaisen, just subscribe to the channel. Also, leave a like and a comment down below. And I will catch you guys on the next one. Peace out, y'all.